Welcome back to the channel USA Coin 69, Treasure Hunters and Coin Collectors. If you love uncovering hidden gems in everyday change or learning about rare coins that could turn ordinary pocket change into a small fortune, you've landed in the perfect place. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most exciting modern coins out there, the United States of America Washington Quarter Dollar 2021. At first glance, it looks like just another quarter you'd use to buy a gumball, feed a parking meter, or toss into a vending machine. But beneath its simple exterior lies a story of history, artistry, and potential treasure that could leave you stunned. Before we get into what makes the 2021 Washington Quarter so special, let's rewind and take a quick journey back in time. The Washington Quarter first appeared in 1932 to celebrate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. It was meant as a one-year commemorative, but it was so popular that it stuck around and became one of the most recognized coins in American history. Over the decades, the quarter has carried different reverse designs: state quarters, national parks, and America the Beautiful series. And then, in 2021, something new entered the spotlight, creating fresh excitement among collectors. And now, why exactly does the 2021 Washington Quarter stand out? Well, it was part of a transition period. After nearly 2 decades of the state quarters and America the Beautiful programs, 2021 was a year of change. One side of the coin still featured the familiar profile of George Washington, but this time it was based on a sculpt by Laura Garden Fraser, the talented artist whose design had actually been suggested back in 1932 but wasn't chosen until nearly 90 years later. Finally, her vision was realized, and collectors were thrilled to see history corrected on a modern coin. Flip the coin to the reverse, and you'll find designs that marked the end of an era. For example, the 2021 issue included the final America the Beautiful quarter honoring the Tuskegee Airmen National Historic Site. This tribute to the heroic African American pilots of World War II was more than just a design, it was a story etched in metal, representing courage, struggle, and triumph. Coins like this are treasured not only for their monetary worth but for their cultural and historical significance. But what really excites collectors isn't just the artistry. It's the rarity, the unique minting errors, and the condition that can transform a coin from spare change into a jackpot. The 2021 Washington Quarter was struck at multiple mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, yet not all coins are created equal. Some came out perfectly centered and sharp, while others left the mint with striking errors. Off-center strikes, doubled dies, unusual cuts, or even small imperfections can turn a regular coin into a one-of-a-kind rarity. And in the world of numismatics, rarity is everything, condition matters just as much. Think about how many quarters pass through millions of hands every single day, bouncing around in wallets, cash registers, and coin jars. Most are scratched, worn, and dirty. But once in a while, a coin escapes into the world in pristine, untouched condition. Collectors call these uncirculated or mint-state coins, and those can carry sky-high premiums. A 2021 Washington Quarter pulled straight from a mint roll and preserved without a single scratch can fetch staggering amounts compared to a worn one you find at the gas station. Now let's talk about collector appeal. Modern coins often go overlooked because people assume only old coins are valuable. But that's not true. Some of the most surprising treasures are modern coins that were minted in the millions but survived in rare, perfect condition, or came with unique variations. That's what makes the 2021 Washington Quarter so exciting. Collectors know it's a transitional year, a closing chapter of one era and the beginning of another, making it historically significant. Add the possibility of errors and flawless grades, and suddenly this coin transforms from a simple quarter into something extraordinary. Imagine finding one of these in your pocket change and not even realizing it. Imagine buying a soda with it when, in reality, you were holding a small fortune. That's why it's always worth checking your coins carefully. That little quarter in your hand might just be the key to unlocking a collector's dream. So how much can one of these coins really be worth? Well, here's the thrilling part you've been waiting for. If you happen to have a 2021 Washington Quarter Dollar in flawless uncirculated condition, or even better, one with a rare minting error, collectors have valued it as high as $65,000. Yes, you heard that right, $65,000 for a coin most people wouldn't even glance at twice, and that's what makes coin collecting so fascinating. Something small, something ordinary, something we use every single day, can turn out to be worth a fortune if you know what to look for. So check your change, search your coin jars, and don't underestimate the power of a modern coin. Today, we're going to explore one such hidden treasure, the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from 1982. At first glance, this coin might seem like just another quarter you've tossed into a jar or used in a vending machine, but as we'll soon uncover, some examples of this coin can be worth an absolutely staggering amount of money. To understand why this particular year is so special, we need to travel back to 1982. It was a time of big changes in American coinage. The U.S. Mint had recently shifted away from producing coins with silver and was making more adjustments to save on production costs. In fact, 1982 was one of the first years when the Mint decided not to produce proof sets or uncirculated mint sets in the traditional way. For collectors, that meant fewer pristine examples of the 1982 quarters were set aside, and most of them ended up being used in everyday circulation. That decision alone added a layer of rarity to coins from this year. On top of that, the Washington quarter itself carries decades of history. First introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, the quarter became an everyday staple of American life. By 1982, it had already been in circulation for half a century, and people barely thought twice about it. But sometimes, the coins people ignore the most are the ones hiding true value. Now let's take a closer look at the design of the 1982 Washington quarter. On the obverse side, you'll see the familiar portrait of George Washington facing left, with the word Liberty inscribed above his head and the national motto, "In God We Trust," just to the left. The year 1982 sits prominently below. This design, created by John Flanagan, is iconic, and by the 1980s, it had already been ingrained in American life as the face of the quarter. On the reverse side, you'll find the majestic image of a bald eagle with its wings spread, clutching arrows of strength and an olive branch of peace. Above it sits the bold United States of America and E pluribus unum, with the denomination quarter dollar beneath. Simple, powerful, and symbolic, this coin reflects the strength of the nation during a time of economic challenges and change. But here's where things get even more interesting. The minting process in 1982 was far from perfect. Because there were no official mint sets issued that year, collectors couldn't easily preserve high-quality coins, making truly well-struck, uncirculated quarters from 1982 incredibly difficult to find today. Add to that the fact that this was the year the Mint also dealt with production variations and errors, and you start to see why collectors chase after these coins with so much excitement. Some of the most desirable 1982 Washington quarters are those with striking errors. For example, there are coins with double obverse features, coins with weak strikes where the details aren't fully visible, and coins struck on planchets intended for other denominations. These error coins are like fingerprints, each one unique, and each one adding an extra layer of rarity and value. Collectors know that when you mix historical significance with minting oddities, you get a recipe for serious treasure. Condition is everything, too. The vast majority of 1982 quarters went straight into circulation, bouncing from pocket to pocket, register to register, and car ashtray to soda machine. As a result, most of them are worn down, scratched, or damaged. Finding one today in pristine condition, what we call mint state or uncirculated, is a massive challenge. Coins graded at higher levels by professional grading services can skyrocket in value because they are so scarce. Think about it for a moment. Millions of 1,982 quarters were minted, but how many survived untouched, unscathed, and perfect? Very, very few. That's what makes this coin so exciting for treasure hunters. You could stumble upon one in an old roll of coins, in a forgotten collection passed down from a relative, or even tucked away in your own change jar without realizing its true worth, and that's the thrill of coin collecting. Ordinary people sometimes hold extraordinary treasures without even knowing it. A coin you've overlooked for years could be the key to unlocking a windfall. That's why serious collectors and casual enthusiasts alike are hunting for the rarest, most valuable examples of the 1982 Washington quarter. So, how much can this unassuming piece of American change actually be worth today? Well, brace yourself. If you happen to have a 1982 Washington quarter dollar in pristine, uncirculated condition, especially one with a rare minting error, the value can reach as high as $75,000. Yes, $75,000 for a single quarter that most people would spend without a second thought. This is why we always say, never underestimate the power of pocket change. Coins are history in your hands, and sometimes, they're treasure waiting to be discovered. So, check your old coin jars, look through your collections, and pay attention to those quarters, because the 1982 Washington quarter just might be your golden ticket. If you enjoyed this journey into coin history and treasure hunting, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next big discovery. Today, we're turning our attention to a coin from the not-so-distant past, the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from the year 1995. You might be thinking 1995 isn't that long ago, right? Surely a quarter from the 1990s can't be worth much more than its face value? Well, prepare to be surprised, because certain examples of this coin are valued at an amount that will absolutely shock you. Stick around until the end, because I promise, you don't want to miss the number we're going to reveal. Let's step back in time for a moment. The year was 1995. The internet was just beginning to change the way people communicated, Michael Jordan had returned to basketball, and Toy Story had just hit the theaters as the first fully computer-animated film. In everyday life, you could walk into a store, pay with cash, and almost certainly receive a Washington quarter back in your change. For most people, it was just a piece of money, 25 cents. But to coin collectors today, the 1995 Washington quarter carries far more significance than meets the eye. The design is one that many Americans know by heart. On the front, you'll see the profile of the nation's first president, George Washington. He looks left, with the bold word Liberty overhead and the national motto "In God We Trust" carefully positioned beside his chin. Below him sits the year, 1995, a date that at first seems ordinary but carries hidden potential. Flip it over, and you'll find the reverse design that had graced quarters for decades, the proud American bald eagle, wings spread wide, holding arrows in one claw and an olive branch in the other. It's a symbol of balance, strength, and peace. For many, this design was iconic, having been used on quarters since 1932. But in the world of coin collecting, it's not just about the design. It's about the details that separate common coins from extraordinary treasures. Here's where things start to get interesting. The 1995 Washington quarter was minted in large numbers at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, as well as proof coins struck in San Francisco. Millions upon millions were produced, and most of them went directly into circulation. That means they were spent, tossed into pockets, carried in purses, scraped against vending machines, and slowly worn down by years of everyday use. Most of the 1995 quarters you'll find today are scratched, dull, and heavily circulated. But the magic happens when you find one in absolutely flawless condition or with a rare minting error. Let's talk about condition first. In coin collecting, condition is king. A coin that has survived nearly 3 decades without a single scratch, blemish, or sign of wear is considered uncirculated or mint state. These coins, graded by professional services on a scale from 1 to 70, can reach astonishing values if they land near the top of that scale. Imagine pulling a 1995 quarter from a roll or collection that looks like it was minted yesterday, shiny, detailed, and perfect. That alone can turn 25 cents into thousands of dollars, but condition isn't the only factor. Errors are another. And the 1995 Washington quarter is known to have some fascinating minting varieties. Collectors have identified doubled dies, coins struck slightly off-center, and even those struck on the wrong planchets. Each of these variations creates rarity. And rarity, paired with demand, is what drives value sky-high. No two error coins are exactly the same, which makes them like fingerprints, completely unique pieces of history frozen in metal. Think about how exciting this really is. You could walk into a store today, receive change back, and unknowingly be handed a coin worth thousands of times its face value. Or maybe you have one tucked away in a jar at home, waiting to be rediscovered. That's the thrill of coin collecting. These coins are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Most are common, but the rare few that are pristine or unusual hold extraordinary value, and the 1995 Washington quarter sits right in that sweet spot of modern collectability. It's not too old, so many people dismiss it. But it's old enough to have stories, varieties, and surviving rarities worth chasing. For collectors, it's an exciting hunt. For ordinary people, it's an opportunity to turn a forgotten coin into an incredible discovery. So now, the question you've been waiting for: how much can a 1995 Washington quarter dollar actually be worth? Well, if you happen to have one in absolutely flawless, uncirculated condition, or better yet, one with a rare and desirable mint error, then this seemingly ordinary coin can command as much as $63,000, yes, you heard that right, $63,000 for a quarter that most people would spend without a second thought, and that, my friends, is why you should never underestimate the coins rattling around in your change or sitting at the bottom of your drawer. They may look ordinary, but sometimes they hold a story and a value that can change everything. Today, we're going to talk about one of those coins that most people overlook but collectors know has the potential to surprise: the United States of America Washington quarter dollar from the year 1986. At first glance, it looks just like the quarter you'd use to grab a soda or feed a parking meter, but when you look closer, there's a story of history, minting, and rarity that makes this year truly special. To really appreciate why the 1986 Washington quarter is interesting, we have to start with the history of the Washington quarter itself. First minted in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, this coin replaced the standing Liberty quarter and became one of the most familiar coins in American life. Designed by John Flanagan, the quarter carried Washington's profile on the obverse and a proud American eagle on the reverse for decades. By 1986, the design had been in circulation for more than 50 years, making it an everyday symbol of American money. But within those ordinary coins are extraordinary examples that collectors prize. Now, let's step into the world of the 1980s. The year 1986 was a time of economic growth, changing culture, and shifting technology. In coinage, the U.S. Mint was producing quarters in large numbers at Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. These mints struck millions upon millions of quarters, most of which went directly into circulation. That means the majority of the coins minted in 1986 were spent and used repeatedly. They were tossed into cash registers, scraped along vending machine slots, and rattled in pockets. The end result is that most 1,986 quarters today show heavy wear, scratches, and dullness, but that's exactly what makes pristine examples so valuable. Finding a 1986 quarter that has survived nearly 4 decades without ever being touched by circulation is rare. A coin with sharp details, bright luster, and no damage at all is considered uncirculated or mint state, and those are the coins that attract collectors. Professional grading services use a 70-point scale to grade coins, and the higher a 1986 quarter scores, the more valuable it becomes. Imagine a coin from this year with razor-sharp detail, brilliant shine, and flawless surfaces. That's the kind of treasure that can be worth thousands. Another factor that makes 1,986 quarters interesting is the presence of mint errors and varieties. Errors can include off-center strikes, double dies, coins struck on the wrong planchets, or even design details that weren't perfectly aligned. Each of these errors creates rarity because they are one-of-a-kind mistakes that slipped past the mint's quality checks. Collectors love error coins because no two are exactly alike, and they represent fascinating quirks in the minting process. A 1986 Washington quarter with a dramatic error can be worth far more than a standard one. We also have to talk about the proof versions of the 1986 Washington quarter. These were struck at the San Francisco Mint with special techniques that create mirror-like feels and frosted details. Proof coins weren't made for circulation but were instead sold directly to collectors. While they are more common in pristine condition, certain rare proofs with unique traits or perfect grades can also command high prices. Now, let's think about why people love collecting coins like the 1986 quarter. It isn't just about the money, though that certainly helps, it's also about the connection to history. Each quarter is a piece of America's story, showing us not just George Washington's enduring image but also the nation's dedication to its symbols and ideals. The eagle on the reverse side, perched proudly with arrows and an olive branch, is a reminder of both strength and peace. Holding one of these coins is like holding a little piece of American heritage, but here's where things get thrilling. You could walk past a 1986 quarter every single day without realizing how valuable it could be. You might have one tucked away in a jar at home or sitting forgotten in a drawer. If that coin happens to be in flawless uncirculated condition, or if it carries a rare error, you could be holding something worth an enormous sum. After all this build-up, how much could the 1986 Washington quarter dollar really be worth today? Well, in the rarest cases, coins preserved in perfect mint state condition or coins with exceptional and desirable mint errors, this little piece of change has been valued as high as $73,000, yes, $73,000 for a single quarter, and that's why coin collecting is such an exciting adventure. What seems ordinary can turn out to be extraordinary. A coin you've overlooked, a coin you've handled 100 times without thinking, might just be the treasure that changes everything. So take a moment to check your coins, dig through your jars, and look carefully at those Washington quarters from 1986. Who knows, you might be holding history and fortune in the palm of your hand. Today we're traveling back to the late 1970s, a period of big changes in the United States, to take a closer look at the Washington quarter dollar from 1979. If you think a coin from the 70s is too modern to be worth anything significant, think again. Because this coin, when found in the right condition and with the right traits, has stunned collectors with values that go far beyond its face value of just 25 cents. To really understand why the 1979 Washington quarter matters, let's set the stage. The 1970s was a decade of cultural shifts, economic challenges, and big transitions for the U.S. Mint. By then, silver had already been removed from regular quarters for more than a decade, replaced with a copper-nickel clad composition. That means no silver content for these coins, but don't let that fool you. The value of a 1979 quarter lies not in precious metal but in rarity, condition, and sometimes in fascinating mint errors that collectors absolutely love. On the obverse of this coin is the familiar and dignified portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Washington's bust faces left, with liberty above his head and I and God we trust to the left. The date 1979 rests below. Flip it over, and you'll see the classic reverse design that had been used since the coin's introduction in 1932, a bold eagle, wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows, with an olive branch tucked underneath. It's one of the most recognizable coin designs in U.S. history, symbolizing both America's readiness to defend itself and its desire for peace. Now here's where the story gets interesting. The Washington quarters from 1979 were struck at three different mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark, Denver coins have a small d, and San Francisco coins feature an S. Most of the Philadelphia and Denver coins were made for circulation, which means they were used heavily in everyday transactions. The San Francisco coins, however, were produced as proofs, specially made for collectors with mirror-like surfaces and frosted details. But what makes the 1979 quarter so appealing to collectors today is not just where it was minted, it's the condition and the errors that slipped through production. Circulating coins from that year were produced in the hundreds of millions, and almost all of them were used daily, leaving them scratched, worn down, and battered. That's why finding one today in pristine mint state condition is incredibly difficult. Collectors know that the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth thousands comes down to tiny details: sharpness of strike, brightness of luster, and absence of damage. A 1979 quarter graded at the highest levels, like MS67 or higher, is a true rarity. Even more exciting are the mint errors and varieties. The 1979 quarters are known to have doubled dies, off-center strikes, and coins struck on the wrong planchets. Imagine finding a quarter struck on a nickel planchet or one that shows doubling in the inscriptions. Those mistakes make each coin unique and highly desirable. In fact, collectors will pay enormous premiums for these unusual pieces because they are one-of-a-kind snapshots of the minting process gone wrong. Think about this for a moment. Most people glance at a quarter and see only 25 cents, but a trained eye knows what to look for: unusual lettering, misaligned details, or that perfect, untouched surface that has survived against the odds. That's the thrill of coin hunting. You never know when an ordinary coin might turn out to be extraordinary. And remember, 1979 wasn't just any year. It was a year of transition for American coinage in general, right before the Susan B. Anthony dollar was introduced. For collectors, the Washington quarters from this year sit in a fascinating period of U.S. numismatic history. They represent continuity with the past while standing on the edge of change, and that makes them even more appealing to study and collect. Now let's get to the heart of the matter: how valuable can this coin actually be? For the average 1979 quarter that's been through decades of circulation, the value is small, just a bit more than face value. But for the rare examples, the ones in flawless mint condition, or those struck with dramatic errors, the value skyrockets. And in the most exceptional cases, the 1979 Washington quarter dollar has been valued at as much as $77,000, yes, $77,000 for a coin that most people wouldn't think twice about spending on a gumball machine, and that's why coin collecting is so exciting. Every coin has a story, and sometimes, that story comes with a price tag that can change your life. So the next time you come across a 1979 Washington quarter, don't ignore it. Look closer, check the details, and see if you might be holding a treasure in your hands. So if you enjoyed this journey into the story of the 1979 Washington quarter dollar, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure into the hidden value of coins. Thanks for joining us today, and until next time, happy hunting, and may your next find be the one that takes your breath away.